Oh, and we're live now. I gotta do the intro. There's no music. That's another thing I gotta figure out for this podcast while doing it live. Is get some kind of board that I can play a little music, maybe some sound effects every now and again. So get ready. Howdy toddy, God Almighty. This is the Sweat Equity Podcast. I'm your host, Law Smith. Sitting here with me is power attorney, Hillsborough Defense owner, operator, Mr. Brett Metcalf.
How you doing?
Yeah, feeling good. It's Friday. We're having a little man date. It was nice. You brought a salad in.
I did.
It was cute.
I bought you a salad.
Yeah, it was all chopped up. Feeling good now. I felt peaked, I think. Is that a word?
I don't know. It might be.
I felt faint from not eating anything. I was like, oh yeah, haven't eaten anything, and woke up at 5:30. So yeah. What's it called? Let's do a little housekeeping. We were just talking about this right before we started. We're getting some sponsors coming, so that's good news. I think FreshBooks is interested. Grasshopper Phones is going to sponsor. We're working out details right now. You know, we talked about Squarespace on the last episode, and come on, step it up, Squarespace. Like I'm sick of this. I've made about 40 sites this year. Give me a promo code. Just give us a shot.
He's moving my site from WordPress to Squarespace, and he's sold me on the idea. So
yeah,
get on board.
Yeah, I mean, what is it going to hurt? It's not going to hurt. I've got an agency discount through us, so we do that. Why don't we just do it through the podcast? Anyway, let's see what else we got. We're on the Laughable app, iTunes. Give that 5-star review. That's how you creep up on all review sites. Is 5-star, but you got to write like one sentence. So if I have any kind of advice, you want to hook up. We're gonna do the next episode. I think we do within the office. We're gonna say, here's how you hook up your friend's small business. Is you just literally go online, 10 minutes, and go give them 5-star reviews. Whatever they're doing, whatever your friend's side hustle is. So when you became a client of ours, I think one of the first things we do on our list is go through and make sure we're going to geek it up at least one more 5-star on there.
Right. And I think that was part of the, one of the first things you did was made sure that I gave you a good client email list.
Yep.
And just sent an email out to all my clients. Just started the email list to keep me in front of their mind, and certainly asked for some reviews and got some good ones, thankfully.
But you guys have, I feel bad for lawyers and doctors too. You guys never really had to worry about this. It's literally the 89th thing on y'all's list. And like, you have to put a lot of brain power over to it and be worried about it.
Right. And I think that especially today, and even when I started my practice, 5 years ago, it wasn't something that I thought about. And the reason I didn't think about it was probably because I was taking advice from attorneys that have been around for a while. And the generation of attorneys before me and my group like never thought about online reviews. And the few, attorneys and firms that did are the ones where if you go online and do a search, for a specific type of attorney in a specific geographic location, they're the ones that have like 100+ 5-star reviews, and they've been focusing on the internet for a while, and they're doing really well as a result. From at least I should say from a client generation standpoint, they're doing a good result or doing a good job. Did
I tell you the one proposal I gave to like a 70-year-old lawyer that I was trying to tell him like he needs to create value for the firm. He's going to retire. And so I go, he needed a nerd to come in and kind of a lot of the time, it was like 4 hours of me like showing him what is what. Like to get a review, he would literally hand out a piece of paper that had like Comic Sans font on it, and would be like, it said like, could you go online and give us a 5-star review? He would hand like a flyer out.
Yeah, and that's too cumbersome for us. I mean, you've got to give people something they click a button and then they can just write a quick sentence and then they're good.
Well, the part that's really funny is that like I was like, yeah, man, I'll get a bunch of my friends to just give you reviews and we'll geek them up. And there's no honor in this review game. Like, seriously, like it doesn't make you the best attorney. Like, it's
no, not at all.
It's like when comedians used to get mad about people buying fake followers. I did it so I could yell at Delta or AT&T or something. Because if you had a if you had a lot of followers, they'd get back to you immediately.
Yeah, it improves your customer service for other providers, right?
But I mean, there's no look. If you do it organically, honestly, it's fine. But I know so many good attorneys just within arm's length that they probably some of them ask for reviews like thoughtfully, like, please can you go and do this, and everyone has ADD and doesn't do it.
Right.
It's not a direct correlation of how good of an attorney. It's just a follow-up thing almost.
Yeah, and I think it's important, certainly from when you're trying to sell clients in the future. Everybody goes online and does their own research about who you are, what you've done, and what past clients think about you. And for me, it's something that I've tried to be diligent about in making sure that my current clients, as we're closing out their case, they understand how important it is to me for them to share their experience online. And I've been, like I said,
it's tough
I think
for you.
with your help.
Criminal's tough.
Well, I mean,
you can go anonymous.
You can, and I think it's hard. There are a lot of people that certainly don't want to put their name on a review for a criminal defense attorney.
Right.
I certainly do have other practice areas, so some of the reviews that are provided to me are non-specific to what practice area, so I think that might make some people feel better about it. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it's an important part of the process, and if you have clients that are appreciative of the work that you've done, and you just ask them and tell them how important it is to you, a lot of them will do it. And it's just about being comfortable and willing to ask for their feedback. I think that a lot of attorneys just they're not thinking about it, or they're just not comfortable doing it for whatever reason, or they're scared that they didn't do a good enough job.
Well, so it's a whole new world. Like, my dad looks at some of this stuff, and he was an attorney he's not done technically yet, but he keeps moping around like he is. But I mean, he's been an attorney for 35 plus years or something crazy like that, and he doesn't understand none of this. He's having trouble because he doesn't have a secretary now. And so I have to do all his iPhone stuff. I had to go to the Apple store a couple of times with him just to unlock the phone to get in. And he's still tied on to the firm, their email. I don't know how it works, but his former firm, he still has access to he's still on the board or something like that. But it was oh yeah, everything was done for him. And you're in kind of, I talk about our age group. We were pre-internet and now full internet. We're right in between age groups.
I mean, we were
everybody younger than us can't remember a life without YouTube, and everybody older is kind of starts to creep.
We were getting the AOL online free 60 minutes of internet discs at our house when we were in 6th grade. So.
Did I tell you my mom just still paid it until a year ago? For email, and I was like, no,
you don't need to do that anymore.
They're ripping you off.
Yeah,
they're don't make a big deal out of it. And
you
I'm
could have gotten out of that game 20 years ago.
Yeah, she's like, well, they gave a CD-ROM. I was like, no, how do you even have one of those?
But yeah, we definitely. I mean, I remember not having internet at all and not having any connectivity in that respect. And then all of a sudden, I think when we were in middle school, we started off with the chat rooms, and it was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
To be able to just have a group of friends while you're at your house, having a conversation with all them at once. But yeah, I mean, so I think...
Because that was that would be probably 94, 95.
Right. And
so we were 5th grade.
Yeah, and so, you look at the people that are, older than us that didn't grow up with the internet, didn't grow up with really any need to use computers anyway, and they don't have the skill set, and especially if they were doing well professionally without it,
mm-hmm.
it makes people more resistant to trying to learn a new skill or whatever to improve their ability to communicate and administratively run their business. I'll never forget going to an attorney's office when it was about 3 years ago when I was looking for office space, and we tour his building, sit down with him in his office, and dude didn't have a computer in his office. no laptop, no desktop, no keyboard or anything. And he just basically would scream across the hall to his assistant to type up anything that needed to be typed
Yep,
up.
yep.
And it just
I kind of want to go back to that though.
yeah. Oh no, it'd be great. Don't get me wrong.
I've tried to find dictation apps, and none of them are really good.
Yeah, and I was envious in a sense too, because it's a great situation for him to have. But it did blow me away that like it kind of opened my eyes to the fact that the older generation they didn't have that need for it to begin with, and so a lot of them just they're past the ability where they want to adapt.
Right, but I think about it this way too. If you're old school though, let's say you're just above our age, we're 33, 34. You're just older than us, but you're old school, and you're on billable hours. Like that's kind of like, there's wasted hours there probably.
Yeah, for sure. And there's definitely an efficiency issue there. And I don't know. I read I think the Florida Bar Facebook page posted some article yesterday that I read. It's funny you mentioned that.
Oh,
about,
hot
like,
topics.
Yeah, it was. It was a hot topic.
Page?
Well, somebody made the comment that like.
I heard it's like World Star Hip Hop.
Yeah, it might be a little bit more dignified.
It's
than
like
that,
Black Adam Schefter,
right?
Yeah,
but the quote that they were seeking comments on was like a quote that some guy said about attorneys, saying that efficient attorneys will starve, basically suggesting that there at least used to be this mindset about how you've got to overbill and do redundant, duplicative work in order to get your to get your billable hour requirements up. And so a lot of the technology influence on attorneys, especially the billable hour models, it's going to reduce the income and the revenue that attorneys bring in. But smart attorneys and smart firms will figure out a way to just make their operations a little bit more lean as a result of the increased efficiencies that we now have access to. And ultimately, the client will be better served, and attorneys can still get their money too.
I mean, we do hourly too, and I've got pricing's tough to justify, right? So, I've slowly been kind of you can kind of justify it in a couple of ways. There's market research, right? You can go, these people are up here,
right.
That's how much they are. Those people are down there. We're right in the middle.
Sure.
Here's why. That's what most people do. Most people just look at like one above, one below, and they're like, that's what I charge for a haircut. Sure. The thing with pricing is I actually had to read up a lot about it. I think it's to me for business, it's kind of the toughest thing for everybody because it is I think you have to justify it, and I think we're going to get in an age where transparency is going to be bigger and bigger.
Right.
And pricing, while in your industry, most people don't shop around, which is another surprising thing.
It depends, but certainly for
not
like
really though.
For big corporate firms, they don't. I think for criminal attorneys, you get shopped for sure. And if you are,
I guess it's the clientele.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. And that was kind of the point that I was about to make, is that the ones who are shopping, like, for me, I don't want the clients that are price shopping,
right,
because I will never be the cheapest lawyer that they find.
Yeah.
And typically I have found
it's
the past,
never worth it.
Right. Is that even if you reduce your fee and do somebody a favor based on, what another attorney is offering, that client then at that point in time, I think in some respect, they don't respect you or your services enough. Yep. And so I've always tried from a business perspective to, quote what I'm worth,
yep,
quote what I think is reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And, I try not to negotiate on that. This is my price. And if you're willing to pay it, great.
Yeah.
If not, I understand.
It's tough when you're youngry, as former
Raheem.
Bucks head coach would call it.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to turn away business. I did that too. And, I know you did. Oh, by the way, Mazel Tov, 5 years.
Yeah, it's been half a decade, man. Been out on the streets hustling.
Is that professional speak? I don't know.
Sometimes, yeah. In my business, I've heard who's the hottest lawyer on the streets before.
Oh yeah.
So I don't think I've ever gotten that nod though from those people. But
if I see Stitches give you a shout out on Instagram,
there you go.
then I know you've made it on the streets.
Yeah, that'll be the day, man.
That'd be a good client, by the way. He's got a tattoo of an AK. I've got an AK on my shirt. I've never shot a gun, and I have a conversation about it every time I wear it.
Nice.
They're like, "What do you like to shoot?" Like, I'm not against guns. I just haven't shot. I don't shoot anything. I just thought it was good design.
Yeah, I don't think I'd shot a gun until about a year ago myself, actually.
I went hunting and didn't even shoot.
Nice.
I just sat in a tree stand like an asshole for 5 hours and froze my ass off.
Drank a bunch of beer.
No, it was terrible.
I guess, yeah, when you're on
you
guns,
can't.
you
I
probably
was,
shouldn't do that.
and I'm scared of heights, so I didn't want to move. So I was just like 15 feet up in the air, just like.
Nice.
So I think you're in this weird area. I'll get to the 5 years. We'll table that for a second, but you're in this weird area where, you've got some experience, and I love a lot of law firms that play up experience, and it's like, I don't know if that legacy stuff has any meaning to a lot of people anymore.
It doesn't.
It's like Pepsi's a legacy brand. Kids don't care about that,
Right.
and people younger than 40 don't give a shit about that.
Yeah.
It's all about kind of like what you've done. It's experience and results of what you've done kind of the last couple of years, probably.
Yeah, I think that's right. And, I think that when you say attorneys play up their experience, it's because that's what all attorneys have always done. And so when you're young and you're starting your practice, you always look to the other firms that you want to emulate and say, what do they do? What are they saying? And everybody just gets in this repetitive pattern of like, trying to say, these are my experience. This is where I went to law school. These are the associations I'm involved in. And at the end of the day, clients don't care about that.
Well,
they just don't.
I don't like anybody touting that out really quickly. Like, you got a handyman, and he's like, I've been doing this 20 years. You're like, okay. That doesn't mean you're good. That means you floated around and stole copper wire to get crystal meth long enough to do it. Look, the Florida carpenters are bad. Yeah. So I think when I was in the position with the franchise group of solo salons, I went through 23 guys until I got to like my guy Brian, PAVTampa.com, P-A-A-V Tampa.com. Yeah, give him a shout out. He's the only honest carpenter I met. At 24 people. Took that long to get someone that didn't have a crack problem or something like that, or a meth problem. I feel like that's always a red flag when they're like, hey, I've been doing this 20 years. And you're like, yeah, I was already getting a weird vibe already kind of thing.
I don't know. I think when I started off, I felt a greater need to try to like sell my experience and all the things that I had done to clients when they walked in the door. But what I've found out, and I don't know if it's different in every industry, but at least for me, when people walk into my door, like they've already done that research and they know who I am and what my experience is at the time. And so I don't spend any time talking about like what I've done anymore. I just try to figure out what their problem is and how I can help.
That's a good spot to be in. I mean, that's there should be kind of a overall kind of term for that, where you don't have to keep selling yourself. In every meeting. Yeah. Results just speak after a while. But that's interesting you say that, because I didn't mean to make this more about like the online world as an attorney, but I do find it interesting that some of these industries, people are having to figure it out, and attorneys and doctors are number one. I see, like, doctors don't really treat their business like a business.
No. And attorneys
used to not, but now they're getting it.
Yeah, we're figuring this because there's so many of us.
What happened? Why is there such a change in like advertising in the last, like, I feel like 20 years, maybe 15 years ago, just exploded?
Yeah, and I think, certainly, you can thank Morgan & Morgan for the explosion of advertising, and attorneys see that
they can advertise this podcast.
I'm sure they'd be interested in that. They spend so much money, they probably wouldn't even notice at this point.
I'll bring on John Morgan's China baby doll face on here.
Yeah, the guy did, and I know attorneys that have, they take issue with the fact that he has been advertising, but the dude's a gold standard in our profession for as far as advertising is concerned.
No, dude, the guy's awesome.
Yeah, it's incredible what he's done. And he's built an enormous firm, and they do really well. And I've spoken to, I don't handle defense cases ever against Morgan & Morgan, but I have friends who are defense attorneys that say that they do have some of the, the best attorneys, in the state.
Yeah.
So he's done a good job with bringing in clients through advertising and then recruiting the right lawyers. And ultimately, I don't mean to make this a Morgan & Morgan pitch at all, but but the guy,
it's something to look at as.
And so that's people do. They look at him as if he can do this, what happens if I spend money? And so I think attorneys in general became, at least in Florida, more willing to dedicate significant resources to advertising after seeing how well he did. And I think in the past, I don't know, probably 10 years, maybe 5 years, there has been such an influx of the number of attorneys. and the number of lawyers that are starting their own firms, that everybody is trying to compete with each other, and everybody feels the need and feels pressure to advertise and to spend money on doing that. Whereas probably 15, 20 years ago, you didn't really have to advertise. So
do you think that's industry specific reasons, or do you think we're just becoming more entrepreneurial in general?
I guess I've never thought about it on like a macro level for, all different types of industries, but I can tell you, at least in the legal field, I mean, their attorneys are feeling a lot of pressure to advertise and, to bring in more business because
they're so not good at it too.
Yeah. And they're not. And we certainly have restrictions from the Florida bar on what we're allowed to do and not do, thank God, because I mean, I think if we didn't have some of those restrictions, some of the advertisements that you would see would be kind of interesting.
For sure.
But I think we do have every attorney in Florida will complain that there are too many lawyers and there's too much competition out there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're thinking about going to law school, don't do it.
But you can look at it philosophically. I always look at it like competition's a good thing. It's going to make you better.
Right.
Either you're meant to do this or not.
Yeah, and I kind of had that mentality going into this, which is that if and there were certainly, as I was a prosecutor at the beginning of my career and I saw some of the defense attorneys that were coming in that seemed to have good practices, I felt like, if that person can do it, I most certainly can.
Right.
And so I was, right or wrong, I was confident that I would be able to make it happen, and that, my abilities and skills would help me rise above some of my competition. And I think the cream is going to rise to the top eventually. But there are some people that are getting weeded out, and it can be because they're just not good at being a lawyer. It might be because they're a great lawyer, but they just don't know how to run a business. And I've seen that happen to people too.
Yeah. Oh
and,
yeah.
And you've got to be good at both.
Yeah. No. And it's interesting from my perspective watching you go through the whole. The reason I like podcasts a lot of the time is because you get to watch the host over years kind of grow. Like I've listened to Pete Holmes' podcast for 4 years, and it's interesting to watch him like have that podcast. It had probably 10,000 listeners to 100,000 listeners to having a late night show to that getting canceled to and it's an interesting ride. It's interesting to see what you're doing as well from our side, but where was I going to go next? I've got like four people are like, it's like picking teams when you're a kid. Right. I have like 4 kids. Like, come on, pick me.
Yeah.
My ADD is so bad. It's like, come on. Come on. I won't even shoot the ball. I would say, I guess, what do you see going forward, either for your firm or this online kind of world that it doesn't seem like a lot of the older folk are paying attention to at all?
Yeah, and I think
or even our age,
And again, I think this applies to attorneys or anybody. Like, if you're starting a business and you're not paying attention to your digital footprint, you need to be. And I think that the people and the reason I think is because consumers in every industry, if they're making a decision about what to buy, what service to use, or which service provider to hire, almost everybody, at least our age and younger, is going to go do research online, right?
Yep.
And so if they can't find out anything about you, then their chances are you're going to get passed over. And I've watched that happen to attorneys too, that just they didn't pay attention to their online presence in any way, shape, or form. And you've got certain review sites that they like. I think we talked about Avo earlier. Like, Avo has.
I think we talked off air, but I do want to bring it up. Yeah.
Yeah, but so Avo is like the attorney. Like, they basically take attorneys' information from like the Florida Bar website, which it's all over the country too. So from each bar association's website, which is all public record, and then they like create a profile for that person. And everybody's your profile starts off at a 6.5 rating, and ideally the best rating you can get is a 10. And so the only way to get to a 10 is if you claim your profile and start participating on Avo.
Yep.
And it's become a company, or a place where clients are going to go to look for information about attorneys. And if you're not paying attention to, and not just Avo, but resources like that where clients can go and get some kind of validation about who you are, and just see an objectively ranked attorney.
Sure.
And we can, whether it's really objective or not, we can talk about that later. But I mean, they want to find out information that confirms that you're going to do a good job.
First off, you exist.
Right. Yeah. I am real. I have been
you
doing
care
this.
enough to have the basics set up.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of people that they talk to. I get a lot of inquiries about, we just need a site to show people we exist as a company. Like, that's a lot of it for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But if you're not using it, then it's okay. You've got a storefront, but it's not. You should use it. Figure out a strategy. Having the most Avo reviews in your area will bring you cases in.
Yeah, it will, for sure.
I literally walk around. I did this for us because I didn't pay attention to us. Call it low self-esteem of me through our company, but I was like, oh, we don't have any reviews, and this is something we help people with.
Right.
So I just literally would go, like, for a month, I just try to sear it in my brain to go, hey, while we're sitting here, can you go on Google and go on Facebook and give us a 5-star? If you do it all at once without a company like Bird Eye that we're an agency with, a lot of sites will negate them. So if they see a glut, like you just send a huge email blast to 5,000 people asking for that, and then 100 come in to one site like Google, they might not count them. So, and if they're coming from one spot too, at the same time.
Right.
So the thing that Bird Eye company, the reason, I mean, it's expensive. It's we're the only agency locally that uses it, but I told them, hey, give me some info about attorneys. And they were like, they sent me some info back. It's like, if you're into 4.4 on anything, like, just, you're done.
Yeah, don't even bother.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, like, I forget the amount of reviews you need to, like, look legit, but they have all that info. And then if you get a bad review, we can park it,
Yeah.
So I get a boner for Squarespace and Bird Eye because I just like anything that it streamlines stuff. And it's like, oh, I found this little secret on how to do this. That's kind of what's fun about doing this work is like, all right, I've been tooling around it. I went through 20 different review company sites, and that one was the best because they could cancel reviews, like if you get to it within, I think, a day or two. And then the way the email is designed, a follow-up email, would you recommend us? Yes. All right, cool. No. All right. It's going to go to a little chat box. It's going to look like you're leaving a shitty review
Right.
online. And to most people, they're not analytical enough to go, wait a minute. It's just people are going to bitch
I'm
about
not leaving
you.
a public review right now.
Then it goes right to you, and then you can call them and follow up and go, hey, I understand, I saw what you wrote. Can we go over that? That's like salvaging it. That hotels have to do that big time on TripAdvisor.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I haven't really gotten much negative feedback yet online, which I'm waiting for.
When you get bigger,
it's
you get bigger, it'll happen.
Because you'll never keep everybody happy in any business that you're ever in, and at some point, and I'm dreading the day where I get a negative review. It's gonna eat at me, and it's gonna eat at me for like a year. and
I'll just put a fake one in and just get it out of the way.
Yeah, so I can just move on with my life at that point.
We've been working with some video, and there's been some questionable comments on there, but I like that you're engaging with an audience, and that's new too.
Yeah, and I'm okay with with having discussions.
If you're on the right side of history on some of these things, it's fine.
Right. And I think specifically we're talking about the Confederate Monument in downtown Tampa, which is actually going to be moved.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's that I think it's in large part due to the video that we did.
I would agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it was
for sure.
it was the way that we pushed that publicly that made that happen. But
we're called influencers.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I just need somebody to start paying me for my Anyway, I think that the videos that we've done have certainly been helpful to the brand. And then if there are
getting your feet wet too, man.
Yeah, and in social media, I feel pretty comfortable being a troll in some respects. I mean, you've got to own that if you're going to do it. And it's not that I'm necessarily like deliberately trying to troll people, but if I don't have any problem publicly taking a position that I know some people are going to disagree with,
right?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
And naturally on that video, with talking about the Confederate monument and how that's offensive to some people, you will have a section of society and people that are on social media who feel like racism and slavery had nothing to do with the Civil War, and so those people get mad and they comment, and it honestly, I mean, it increases the engagement on the post in some respects.
Smart. I was going to say that.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that there are people that are going to take unreasonable views and positions on things, and I'm okay with those people engaging me.
Do we want to troll and cut part of this video out?
No, we could potentially do that, but yeah, and I don't do
Cosby
anything.
wasn't that bad. No.
I think that was the opening of like a Jim Jeffries
was
stand
it?
up recently. I don't know, something about Cosby. Anyway, with the Confederate monument thing. I mean, it's great. I think that they're moving the monument. I think they're moving out to some like cemetery in Brandon.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, at least
For
it's not
those
downtown prominently displayed.
We've got people out of the areas. For those that don't know, it's like the little suburb outside of Tampa.
Yeah.
Where you do starter restaurants now if you're a big franchise corporation.
Yeah, I was filtering some negative comments about Brandon just because I may have potential clients who live out there. So.
I mean, it is what it is. There's like 400,000 people over in that area. I had all the market research at one point. There's a lot of incomes that are over $100,000. Yeah. It's a lot of like big box stores, retail centers.
Top golf
For the bad golfers. Indoor skydiving, which I blame for getting my wife pregnant. We had our anniversary marital session, and then went to iFly and went indoor skydiving. That just
helped,
I think
like,
it jumbled
circulate things around.
Yeah, I think it jumbled everything up, and we're having a baby girl on Halloween. This upcoming Halloween, yeah.
That should be part of your story that you tell her growing up.
We've told it to enough people.
How was I made?
Now about 1,000. So,
right.
Yeah, man, it's one of those things where figuring out how to just use the internet to your advantage as an attorney, and knowing like what to say.
Yeah.
Some people just don't know what to say, and it's kind of I'm not worried about you commenting back, and when something posts, there's a shitty post, like, should I hide it? And you're like, no, I'll talk to him. I'm not worried about you and him getting in a fight, but there are attorneys that I would be like, you're not allowed.
Yeah, you got to, I mean, there's certainly, and I think everybody on social media probably has done something or said something that they wish they could have taken back.
Sure.
And I've done it before.
Yeah.
And I've done it in a way that, I've done it enough, and I've done it severely enough to where I've learned my lesson.
Sure.
And everybody does it, but I'm in a position now where I feel like, especially on my business page, like I will most certainly filter everything that I do. And if there's any little part of me that says maybe I shouldn't do this, then I won't do it.
Right.
And you've got to make sure
just
that you're,
like in real life.
Yeah, which is exactly what you should do. But yeah, I mean, it's a social media for businesses and for attorneys can be a difficult thing to take advantage of, and trying to navigate that and figure out how to best use social media to your advantage has been, I mean, we're still in that process right now, but it's I think what we've done so far and what you've helped me do so far has been fantastic.
No, I mean, it's a collaboration effort. We're guinea pigging this video. How do we streamline this to make it guerrilla style shooting and editing and flipping out quickly? Because we want to do trending news topics.
Right.
Like, I just wrote out the guy that drove on Clearwater Beach and Facebook Live that.
Yeah, good move.
God, so that was, like that was just like I wish someone didn't tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't hurt anybody, which was good.
How? I don't
know.
I was like, what if you were like doing like a little sandcastle on top of you or whatever, patting you down?
Oh yeah, right.
You wouldn't see anybody, and he would just run right.
I mean, and I don't know that. I mean, the guy, like, I saw like a small clip of the video, and he's literally like, turning the camera around to like do a selfie video while he's driving like, I don't know, 30, 40 miles an hour down the beach.
It's pretty.
And he's like, in his other hand, he's like ripping shots straight from the bottle of some kind of brown liquor. And the dude clearly had some mental health issues, and he was probably hammered at the time.
Opiate, I think.
Yeah, and whatever it was. And I think he made some comment that I read, in a follow-up story that, he just, the only person he wanted to harm was himself. And it's sad. But like,
go jump off the Skyway Bridge.
Yeah, I mean,
just go kill yourself at home.
And not to encourage anybody to do that, but like,
that guy should go kill himself.
But he should know and understand that what he's doing is putting everybody else's lives in danger. And like, I've taken my son to Clearwater Beach before. Like, we've all been to Clearwater Beach ourselves. Like, you look at that and just think like, thank God I wasn't there right then, and nobody else got hurt too.
Right.
So he, fortunately nothing bad happened as a result of that, but. There are certainly crazy people that are using social media to try to get attention for doing their I don't know, whatever they think is crazy and the right thing for them to do at the time.
That is scary.
It's nuts.
Yeah. Well, let's close her out a little bit. 5 years. What have you learned? I wrote. If you're watching on video, I'm reading notes that I wrote out. Yeah, I actually prepared a little bit.
Nice.
Any lessons learned in 5 years? Any advice pass on to young attorneys? I always like partnerships are really tough.
Yeah.
Pure partnerships, 50-50.
Sure. Yeah. So
we both had
right,
divorce,
and I did that, and my former partner is still a good friend of mine, and
sure.
I think it ended as amicably as it possibly could have. At the end of the day, if you are building as an attorney, most clients, especially in the areas of criminal defense, personal injury, family law, and employment law, your clients are not big corporations or other businesses. Your clients are people. They're individuals that are out in the community that run into a problem and they need help.
Mm-hmm.
So as an attorney, they're not coming to you for the big firm you work for. They're coming to you for you. And so I think if there's a mistake that, maybe I made in the business formation initially with my former partner, it was that I gave up equity of my own reputation and myself to a degree, and so
wow.
I think if you make sure you're keeping your brand and you're keeping what you're worth and what you bring in, everything will be, you'll be better suited that way. And I think realistically, had my former partner and I maybe had a different, setup in the past, we still may be working together right now.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
And so the way that you go about it, I think in the initial setup is important, but just make sure that you're not giving up, the equity that you have in yourself and the belief and the trust that people have in you.
That's good advice. I'd never really thought about it that way. As your reputation has,
it
has
is
equity.
It does. Your especially with those when your clients are individuals in the community. Your reputation is what is going to drive business to you, and we've done what we can to try to build my reputation online too. And,
yeah,
and it's all through former clients that are just sharing their experience. But part of that is just getting your reputation out there to be accessible to people.
It's a ripple effect, as I call it. Or if you're a real estate person, they have a 3 circles where you go friends and family, friends of friends, and then it just goes out from there. Right. Acquaintances, community. But yeah, one thing I do find interesting is a lot of the attorneys I know, and maybe it's just who we gravitate towards to work together, but a lot of attorneys I know actually do give a shit about people.
Yeah.
It's not the shark suited kind of guy. And then the other thing is they do a lot of community stuff or do a lot of stuff that is never ever thanked.
Yeah,
and they never can talk about it.
Right, and there's certainly, I'm not going to talk about anything that I'm involved in personally right now, but you definitely, the more you get out into the community, and it's not that you're ever out there seeking attention for what you're doing, but if you go out and you get involved in the community and you do good work on a volunteer basis or for whatever it is, you'll develop connections and trust and respect in that way too. And that is definitely a huge part in being able to, to build your brand and build your referral network.
Yeah.
And so there's definitely a business aspect to doing that kind of stuff too.
Hey, good on you, man. It's good juju. I always say the hippie thing is the more good you put out there, the more you'll get back.
Yeah, man, it's karma.
Even business-wise, not just personally. So I think that's a good stopping point. We'll have you back on soon.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for doing it, brother.